Hi, my name is William Matchin. I live in Columbia, South Carolina. Columbia is the capital of South Carolina. I work at the University of South Carolina in the School of Public Health as an assistant professor. And I'm a complete Bernie bro, and I've been volunteering, helping out with the Bernie campaign, and probably talking about Bernie to anyone that I ever meet. And on social media, I post crap about Bernie all the time. And I'm very invested in wanting a progressive, and in this case, I don't see anyone that's really viable except for Bernie in this election to beat Trump. So I've devoted my time, money, effort, energy, mental health all to Bernie Sanders the last probably year and a few months. Um, it's interesting living in South Carolina because if you go around canvassing like I've done a few times for Bernie Sanders or talking to local progressive activists and a lot of the local community, especially the lower income black community in South Carolina, in Columbia, you see a lot of stuff about Tom Steyer. You see Tom Steyer billboards, which are driving me insane everywhere I drive. You see Tom Steyer signs on the street. People have Tom Steyer signs. If you go canvassing and talk to people, they often seem to know something about Tom Steyer. And you're like, how the hell is this Tom Steyer person popping up all the time in everything that you see around the city and the state? Like, why is Tom Steyer doing so well here? Why is his name have so much visibility? Why are people talking about him? Um, and what I've seen on some of the news media covering the campaign is they'll point out that there's been these late billionaire entrants into the race, Tom Steyer and Michael Bloomberg, and that basically they have huge personal fortunes, which they're using to buy their way into the election. And you see that, of course, with Bloomberg, who was only entered the race, I guess, like 2 months ago, and is already polling a few percentage points, and has beaten a lot of other candidates nationally. And his strategy has been pretty much what you'd expect for a billionaire who wants to buy their way into the election. He's not trying to compete in the early states, which typically require a lot of on the ground efforts and staff and infrastructure, which he doesn't have. And so instead of trying to compete in like Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina, he's just banking on basically buying a ton of ads nationally and then hoping that and his name recognition and the ads and stuff will lead a bunch of people to vote for him somehow in the long run. What's interesting is that people seem to assume that Tom Steyer's campaign is being run in the same way as Michael Bloomberg's campaign, in the sense that he's a billionaire, he's polling decently in some of these early states. So, for example, according to the Real Clear Politics polling average in South Carolina, he's currently in fifth at 4%, behind Buttigieg's 7.7%, and Biden is up at 35%. So Steyer's in fifth. He's beating people like Cory Booker, who's an African American, very popular senator running a campaign. A lot of the African American community knows him. A lot of people know him generally because he's been around. He's very well spoken and popular, but yet he's still polling behind Tom Steyer, who inexplicably has got more support than he does. So how is that possible, right? You see this and you're like, how's that possible? What I've seen is people assume it's something like Michael Bloomberg's, where he just bought a bunch of ads. And he has bought a bunch of ads. Like, you see them all the time. I was at a party the other day and someone said they were listening to Spotify, and they just kept getting the same Tom Steyer ad over and over again. They're really irritated about that. So that's certainly part of it. He's invested a lot of money. But the other part of it, I think, that was missing, and what I think a lot of progressive people in South Carolina will point out, is that Tom Steyer has done a very good job at focusing on progressive causes and issues, and also building a really strong campaign staff and of people of color, local activists, progressive activists that, for whatever other reason, weren't hired into other campaigns or haven't been involved in other projects. And so these are people that actually, I think, have real credibility to them, that have local connections that are very deep to the communities, know them really well, and are very trustworthy, or some people that have some sort of clout and ability to go on the ground and do a lot of good work that has gotten people to know about Tom Steyer and to learn about that. Um, so yeah, one thing I've seen from a person who was formerly a staffer on Bernie's campaign, and then on someone else's campaign, and now on Tom Steyer's campaign, basically saying that to just call out Tom Steyer as just another billionaire is sort of wrong and is not really fair, because Tom Steyer himself has been really a strong progressive. Like, even before his presidential campaign, he spent a lot of money, I think, on climate change activism and information, or like sort of awareness raising campaigns. And likewise with the impeachment of Trump, he spent a lot of his own money on the need to impeach petition thing that I guess you could argue on balance is a good thing. Oh, we don't want to get into impeachment right now. Um, and then they would say that that's continued into his campaign now, where he's championing a lot of progressive causes like climate change, for example, or criminal justice reform, wealth inequality, etc. So, like, one of the debates, right? So people ask, like, Bernie Sanders, should billionaires exist? And Bernie Sanders says no, and then they turn to the billionaire on the stage, Tom Steyer, and Tom Steyer goes, I agree with Bernie. Like, it's a problem, right? So people basically point out that Tom Steyer is not like Michael Bloomberg. He's sort of like a good billionaire, because he's investing a lot of money in progressive causes. He's hiring people into his campaign staff that are, good progressive activists that are getting good jobs and training. And people have pointed out that he's hiring people local in the state rather than hiring his own experts that he might know from out of state. He's trying to build real meaningful connections to the local communities. And I've seen that, for instance, in Denmark, South Carolina. They have this water crisis issue where apparently there's really toxic water being consumed by the residents there, which are not very wealthy. And Bernie Sanders highlighted that issue early in his campaign, but one of the only other campaigns I know of that's really spent a lot of time and money in this issue in Denmark, South Carolina, this like tiny hole in the wall of the state, is Tom Steyer, right? So, he's not the same as Michael Bloomberg. Like, I don't think Michael Bloomberg gives a crap about the water quality in Denmark, South Carolina, and has not even tried to even care about any of these kinds of issues, whereas Tom Steyer seems to have really spent a lot of time and effort and consideration for that.